Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and we're here today to discuss Volume 12 in Deluxe Edition 4 of Berserk. We'll be spoiling everything that happens in it. Lots of stuff to talk about. Dan, will you start us off with introductions, please?
Sure. I'm Dan, and I've read a lot of mangas, and I'm the yeah. Oh, sorry. I have. Sorry, wait a second. I had something in the background which just started and then distracted me. I was like, "Who's talking to me? What?" Sorry. But yeah, I was just saying that I've read this before, so I guess I'll be the resident expert for this session. Yeah.
We need all the help we can get. And Varsha?
Hi everyone, I'm Varsha. My channel is Reading by the Rainy Mountain, which is currently practically dormant, but I've got plans for starting in June. Yeah, and this is my first read through of Berserk.
Yeah, lots to talk about in this. Very action packed, and you started to see things that were set up before. We weren't really sure where things kind of everything starts coming together. So, yeah, lots
So I
of
guess
stuff.
maybe we can start with because the beginning is sort of a bit like an epilogue of what happened before, of people realizing that Griffith is not what he was anymore, and then what are they going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's really sure.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused by that because the band had been pretty active and they had been doing things, but once they saw that Griffin he was never going to be the same.
Mhm.
They seemed pretty hopeless, like they were all going to split up. So I was a little bit confused as to why they just wouldn't continue doing what they were doing, because they seemed to be doing okay for the last year, but I guess it was all on that whole year was just them waiting for Griffin to come back. Is that kind of what it is?
I think so, because they've been basically like fugitives for the last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they were probably like thinking, oh, we just need to do this for a couple more months until we get Griffith, and then he's gonna fix everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that's not gonna happen. So, but some of them still, they did say like, oh, we can go on with Casca, or they can go on with Guts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I forget, were they still within Midland when they were doing all that, or did they go out and then come back in? Was this the first time they were breaching the border?
Not sure, actually.
Hmm.
Yeah, because we're not. I mean, it's the whole geography is a bit nebulous, right? So it's not sure
Yeah,
where they were. They're just in a forest or some random areas.
yeah.
Not 100% sure.
I guess by their conviction that they won't be pursued outside the border, they probably, and they were
Mm.
living like fugitives, but then they probably were still inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you might be right
Yeah.
though. They might have been gone outside. I don't remember what the other nations are. There's are other nations outside. Not exactly sure
Mm.
where they are, and I don't think we get much information as to what happened. We only get information as to the Kushan Empire to the south, um,
Mm.
which we've gotten. Where those guys were coming from. Those like 5 assassins, right? We've gotten
Right.
a bit more information. I think some snippets throughout the volumes about that, um, but not that much.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
And Griffin does. I mean, he's just like falling apart, but we do get a little bit about the Behelit. Is that the
Beharit,
pronunciation? Behelit.
Beharit, whatever you want.
Mhm.
That it's supposed to return to his hand. It's always meant to. It's kind of like destined to return to his hand.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember where he was lost. Do you guys remember? I'm trying to think. Was it lost when he got imprisoned and then they just threw it away?
I think he threw it like in a drain or something.
In a drain. Okay. I
Yeah.
wonder how it
And
arrived
he
to
finds
where
it back in a
it
swamp.
was.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's a water body where he found it, so I I suppose the drainage system's led there. Maybe if you want to get all physics about
Maybe.
it.
Yeah.
It was a bit like the ring in Lord of the Rings, right? I guess it has maybe a will of its own of returning back to its owner, maybe. So,
Yeah, it's kind of the way I
A
saw it.
will of it. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that was it.
Oh, I'm saying will of its own, but then I guess we get a lot of information later on that suggests nobody has a will except to make that decision about whether to accept what the Behelit offers. Yeah, I guess we'll get into that a bit later, but yeah, it did come back because it was destined to come back to him, apparently.
yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, and then there's like before we get to all of that, right? There's that whole scene or multiple scenes with both with Griffith, right? And like he has a whole like the flashback, or I don't know if you could call it a flashback. He's got a flash forward of seeing his life in the future, which to me that is like that whole part of like the seeing his life in the future and the part with Casca and Guts before talking. That's like my favorite part because I think it has a lot of depth. Because it's not like he's seeing a bad future, right? It's like it seems pretty peaceful future, but to someone that has ambition and I don't know, that probably is even worse than seeing himself die, I think, because then he tried killing himself, right? Because he doesn't want to end up like pathetic and maybe weak or just relying on everyone else. It's I don't know. There's a lot of complicated feelings going on, I think, in his mind and in also like Casca's mind too, because it's just like, she's just been with Guts for like the last year. Well, not the last year, the last months, I guess. But now she suddenly feels like she needs to take care of Griffith, so she's going to abandon Guts. And I mean, like what's going to happen? She's going to become the wife of Griffith, but she doesn't love him. I don't know. It's like a very bittersweet, sad sort of situation, I guess.
Yeah, and the scene where Griffin lays on top of her, was that him wanting like a human like contact, or is that almost like was he start to become envious or jealous of what Guts had like his connection now with Casca?
Yeah, not sure. I mean, I think you can read it both ways.
Yeah.
One is a bit more dark, I guess. Sort of like, she adored me before, she was like mine, and now she's, now I'm powerless, and she's with Guts. But it could also be just that, yeah, he needed someone, right, given his situation.
I
don't know, what
guess,
you think,
but I think every time Guts and Casca had an intimate conversation that Griffith was there to observe, we sort of got a zoom in of one of his eyes, and this happened too soon after one of the conversations in which they were talking about their future, possibly without Griffith, for me to think that it is not, at least if not envy, at least just this feeling like so much has changed, even this mustn't change, at least that. Perhaps it goes all the way to envy. Perhaps the worst interpretation is possibly she was mine, she can't be someone else's, regardless of like how she was his. So there's several interpretations, I'm sure, like you said, but I think it is motivated, I think, at least in part by the conversations. I think simply because there were at least 4 or 5 instances when I noticed that we're getting this like zoom in of Griffith's eyes whenever like he's noticing this conversation, and that must mean something. that's doing something to him, whatever it was resulted in this episode. um yeah, so that's my take on that, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess since you can't speak, we have to just sort of infer,
Yeah.
right?
On that stare.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's like really interesting, this whole part, and trying to imagine how he would be feeling at this point, right? Because he does want to kill himself. He tries, but then he's like, I guess he still wants to live. Just like
Yeah.
Guts said when he tried to kill himself at one of his lowest points. I guess in the end he's, you know, he still wants to be able to do something. Um, it's just very sad.
Yeah.
Just like, you know, and not the kind of sort of sad which is like, you know, it's sad but it's nice. More like it's sad and it's like pathetic and you know, not the nice kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the
Maybe that
times
was
that
sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Varsha. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe that was him trying to see if he could be happy at least with this alternative life, if he's not out conquering the world. And then when he sees himself fast forwarding to the future and realizes he's not going to be happy, that's when he tries to kill himself. So yeah, maybe that was a last desperate move on by him.
I think
Sorry, did I miss it?
my interpretation is that I think he actually would be somewhat happy in that life, but the fact that he thinks he would somewhat be happy is like, it's almost so devastating, so much of a loss, you know? It's just, I don't know, I'm trying to think in my real life. I'm like thinking, you know, I could just settle for nice, peaceful life, whatever. Don't try to achieve this or try to achieve that, or, you know, make myself vulnerable or whatever, right? And I would be happy, but that's also quite sad once you realize that, you know, you're not going to strive for your goals just to be, you know, peaceful.
Yeah.
I think
how I relate it.
and one of the I think the time before he lays on top of Casca, it is the moment where the band starts to come to Guts and say, "We'll follow you." So maybe that had because he saw that Guts was could be the new leader, and maybe that was something else that kind of, you know, it's all we like you said we have to infer by these stares because we don't have any information, so it's all an interpretation. But I thought it was the timing of it felt like he was envious or jealous of what the way that he used to be that to them, and now he's just like a corpse.
For sure. And later on, we even see like right, Griffith, when he's transforming, say, you know, you were the only thing that were like distracting me from my goal, which is a bit weird in the sense that I would have liked that they showed a bit more of that in the previous chapters. We did get like snippets of it, but it would have been nice to show a bit more of it because, like, at that point you're like, really, that you like thought that highly of him. You know, you have to imagine that they, you know, all the adventures they went through and all that, I guess, friendship, but we didn't see it that much. So probably, yeah. So he's like, oh, this guy distracting me from my goal. He, you know, caused all of this stuff to happen, and now he's taking my place pretty much, and I'm like trapped inside my body, not being able to do anything. I'm sure that also was a part in why he made his decision.
To your point about not seeing a lot of it, I wondered, you know, like going back to what I said earlier, maybe in previous discussions about the fact that, you know, my opinion of Griffith was pretty colored by what we know comes in the beginning, right? Like we know what comes later at the end of Guts' stint with the Hawk. So I'm wondering if we didn't have that, if we interpret their friendship slightly differently, because my reading into, I know Griffith treated Guts as someone special for him, right? But was it because he thought he would help him meet his dream or goals, or more than anybody else would? that was my interpretation of why he valued guts so deeply. But now we're kind of hearing the opposite, where you distracted me from my dream, like distracted him enough, maybe by leaving perhaps because he went to the princess. But yeah, I'm wondering how we would have read it differently if we didn't have that sort of prologue to this episode, like with this whole sequence with the Ban of the Hawk.
That's a good point. I wonder if someone's just started reading at the beginning of a Golden Age arc, and then when you get to the end, you start reading at the beginning. Oh, hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Hey Joe.
Yeah, nice.
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 I
Prepared.
didn't know it had all those colors.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking something that I think you will also be interested in what you think. What do you think about if someone started reading Berserk from the beginning of the Golden Age arc, not from the actual beginning, without knowing how it ends up, and then he can read that? Sort of like, watching Star Wars instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, then you go back to 1, 2, 3, and then you continue,
I think Puck's appearance would be really confusing.
That's for sure, yeah.
Where the hell does this guy come from? Because it's cool for us.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't he be just another character though? Like someone we're supposed to pay attention to, but
I guess.
I mean, it's a less cool moment for sure, but if we read it that way. But what do you think about how we would interpret Griffith's opinion of guts? I think specifically we were discussing the what he says about you were the only one who distracted me from my dream, and yeah, would that make sense? Would that make more sense if we didn't have the previous, like the future, look into the future?
That seems like we have, we know how all that fits based on this arc, right? Like, I feel like that's just Griffith trying to convince himself that it's all Guts' fault, so sacrificing him is okay. Like alleviating his guilt. Like, you were the one who got me into this. I only messed up because of you, so yeah, sacrifice the bastard. That's how I took it, right? Like the little self-deception there. It's really his fault. So go ahead, brand him and whatever. But yeah, actually I don't know. I don't really know that it would make that much of a difference if we didn't read the first 3 volumes. We would be surprised by the tonal shift.
Yeah.
That's to me the plot. I don't think the plot would feel that different. I think it's really interesting that we know that, like, you inform yourself, like, there's 5 members of the God Hand, and they're like the 4 members of the God Hand show up, and you're like, well, I can figure out who the thumb's going to be, and right, and then you shouldn't be reading this volume and going, I can't believe it's so dark. Whereas if you had started with volume 4, you might be like, I can't believe it got so dark. So there's a promises. Brandon Sanderson does this thing. He talks about promises and payoffs as a writer, right? So you when you put stuff in like the prologue or you put stuff in the first chapter, you're making promises like what the genre is going to be, like what kind of character is going to be, what kind of like level of like violence and stuff you're going to have. Like, if you have a book that starts off like a Hardy Boy mystery and then there's like a violent sexual assault halfway through, people are like, whoa, you've got to put stuff in the first chapter so people like know that this is what they're in for. Otherwise, they're going to be mad. Like, and I feel like the first 3 volumes were really important on that sense, and that this is going to get real dark and it's going to get real nasty, and you should not expect a happy ending. Whereas if you started with book 4, you wouldn't be set up that way, right? You might be thinking like, oh, Berserk's kind of a rough title, but there's sunlight in this world, things. Casca and, when Guts could end up happily ever after and, opening their yoga studio or whatever. But you read the first 3 volumes and so in a tonal way, I think it matters that he started there. In a plot way, I almost I guess that Griffith doesn't resist the call to sacrifice them.
Yeah.
They
But
don't.
it would change your whole like how you interpret all the stuff that Griffith does, pretty much. You know, knowing what happens, and without knowing what happens, you would not read between the lines or read differently what he was thinking or what his character was, right? It would be a lot more of a surprise what ends up happening, obviously.
If you hadn't read the first 3 chapters, the first 3 volumes, you would probably think that somehow they heal Griffith, and Griffith, Guts, and Casca go on and fight demons as like guerrilla warfare for the next whatever
Yeah.
volumes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's what you would assume is going to happen, as opposed to
Yeah, something like the demons are invading our world, and you know this guy, which has been set up to be so so smart and everything, he's gonna defend the world or something against them. He looks so he seems so nice. He's all white and pure and like a knight in shining armor, right?
or like a little darker, like Griffith's in like a wheelchair and like making plans.
At that point, yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Guts is fighting and Casca's fighting by his side, and they're all like one big happy family. And the apostles are like bosses, and they kill an apostle, and they get the next, and they finally kill one of the God Hand. And,
And I do understand your point about making the audience understand what kind of work it is. But I do prefer the other way around a lot of time. I do prefer being surprised and finding something I don't expect, or even if it like a complete shift in the tone. I like being surprised. I know not everyone does, and it can come as quite abrupt, right? And I've definitely read from some people starting to read books like I don't know what I'm thinking of. What was it? A couple of books I'm trying to think about, but I don't remember. Covenant something. What was his name?
Thomas Covenant?
Thomas Covenant. Something like that. They thought the premise was Lord of the Rings, sort of, and then it gets way darker, and a lot of people just stop reading like the first chapter after he gets into the fantasy world.
He starts raping people.
Yeah, so do I understand that?
He's not a good guy.
No, he's not. But I would have enjoyed if, like, personally, just for my taste, I would have enjoyed if I didn't have the initial 3 chapters to know what the ending was going to be of this arc. But that's my personal preference.
Huh. Audiences in general don't like the tonal shifts.
I know.
Right? Like, if I know a writer, I will tell them, don't do that. Don't have your adventure novel that becomes a romance halfway through. That's the conventional wisdom, which doesn't mean people wouldn't like that, but just generally speaking, it's also hard.
It might become like a cult classic, a very small niche.
It's so hard to market, right? What kind of coverage do you put on your book if it does that, right? But I should look up more interviews with Miura and see if he's ever talked about why he structured the way he did. Because he may have been, I don't know what he was thinking. He may have been thinking this stuff. He may have just been thinking that very dark first 3 volumes were much easier to sell to a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Once they were popular, it's like, well, now I can tell the story the way I want to. Maybe he wanted to start at volume 4 all along. I don't know. I'm guessing. He probably has answered this in Japanese.
Yeah, probably.
Because I'm sure he's been interviewed in Japanese plenty of times, but I just, I've never read that stuff.
Well, I'm trying to think. I don't know if any of you are much into games, computer games, but I don't know if any one of you have heard of Doki Doki Literature Club, which is a game which starts off as a sort of a really standard, really normal romance game about trying to meet people and maybe have a nice romantic story with one of them, and then suddenly halfway it does a drastic shift into psychological horror, and there's nothing to tell you that that's what's going to happen, and it was really popular. It's like it's one of the most popular. Not
that
most
sounds like my dating life.
yeah, but it had like a large I guess, cultural impact in games after it came out. A lot of games started following that. So I'm not saying that sudden tonal shift cannot be done with wide appeal. I guess it can be done, but a lot of the time it's like you need to go from like nice to horror, right? I've never seen it go from really bad to, oh, this is really nice, sort of teenage, growing up love story or something. I've never seen it going that way. Maybe because people wrongly feel that dark things are more deep. So if you go for something less deep to more deep, it makes everything more interesting instead of the other way around. But I don't know.
But if you started at volume 4, this would feel much more like an action story.
Yes.
And not like a horror.
Yes.
Or like a
Read the
coming of
first
age.
3.
Yeah, like a coming of age almost, I would have thought.
Coming of age, like they're gonna like a lot of strategy in battles and like big swords and guys in armor, and yeah, there's some supernatural elements, but you could certainly Guts will learn a little magic and fight, monsters, but not monsters, not capital M monsters, like Zod is like a big boss, not like a existential dread, not like a Cthulhu, right? And then you find that the God Hand is a lot more like that's Cthulhu. That's you just look at them the wrong way and your mind is destroyed. It's not like, oh, if I just get a bigger sword, I'll be okay. No.
Yeah. And I guess we saw a lot of apostles and monsters finally in this volume. There's like thousands of them inside the Maelstrom. It's I think we get to see a couple of them in the future too. Of those, background monsters that we see. Yeah, and we see the God Hand again. We see hills made of Beherit, I guess.
Oh, I think I missed that one.
Well, I think that's maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I do remember Sorry, go ahead.
They're walking on hills that are faces.
Yeah, so maybe they're not actual Beherit. I just they kind of look pretty similar.
Yeah.
And even the cocoon in which Griffith transforms also has like those faces. So I just assumed it was maybe Beherit, but maybe not. Maybe it's just a nice visual image.
Mm.
Yeah, and we do get the little kind of the dream sequence with Griffin. What could happen in the future with Casca and their little guts offspring. That was a little cheesy, but yeah, but it was still gave us insights into where Griffin's mind is too, instead of just those weird stares. We kind of got a little bit more detail on what's in his mind.
Yeah. And we also get like that other, I don't know, it's not a dream sequence. It's when he has to make his decision, right? I guess it's sort of a metaphorical, I don't know what you would call it.
Dickensian.
Yeah.
Right, Ghost of Christmas Past and Ghost of Christmas Future.
Yeah. But it's definitely not like in his mind, because the two of the God Hand are, manipulating the, the discussion there. But that was also, I thought, quite interesting of showing us, how he's justifying, I guess, everything. We did see a bit of it, I think, earlier on, like a couple of volumes ago, right? When he decided, I'm going to sacrifice people to achieve my dream. This is just like the same thing, just maybe powered up to 1,000 or something, right?
Yeah. And
we lost Varsha.
Well, she's trying to connect from a hotel Wi-Fi, so.
Oh, yeah.
Can be quite unreliable.
Is she abroad already?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's been away for, I think, 3 weeks, 2 weeks?
A couple of weeks, yeah.
At least a couple of weeks.
I missed last week. I was pouring drinks and assembling an umbrella for my wife on our porch for Mother's Day to keep the sun off her delicate skin. So
it's worth
it.
Yeah, I was wondering, what do you guys think that because in this whole, all these not flashbacks. In this whole sequence, it's like Griffith wants to reach the castle. But what's the castle? It never tells us, does it?
I guess it's like I saw it kind of like a metaphor for his dreams or his aspirations to like have his own kingdom is kind of the way because I think they referenced that in a few volumes ago that he wants his own kingdom. He wants his own he wants to have his own world almost. He wants to rule is kind of the way I saw this. So he wanted that was his castle that he wanted to be the king of that castle. That was the end goal for him.
Okay. Yeah, because it's definitely his goal, but I wasn't sure if his goal was to have a kingdom. You know, Joe, if it was ever actually, explicitly mentioned.
I mean, doesn't he say he wants the world, or am I confusing myself?
Yeah, I think he does.
Maybe.
He wants the world.
If you're gonna
That's also a bit.
From a feudal like context, if he wants the world, he's got to have a magical, a special fancy city to rule it from, right? You don't just rule the world by telephone. There's no telephones, right? So I always, I took that the same way Steve said. It's kind of metaphor for ruling the world. You got to rule it from a place, and you're asking.
He just wants to conquer everything.
You're asking if it's connected to the place under the hole, in the well where he was kept a prisoner. We're talking about the that was under there. I don't think they officially connect those.
I think architecture is a bit different because it's more like a Roman classical architecture in the hall compared to a medieval. I imagined it as like, when he was a child, he lived in a town. He was like poor. He lived in a town, and there was this big castle, and he always looked up to it, and he's like, well, I can never go there. That's how I imagined it. Yeah. But again, this was all of it dream or whatever sequence. So I don't know if it necessarily has to represent anything real in that sense.
Yeah, but as a metaphor, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You need your big fancy royal city to rule the world from.
Yeah. What were you saying, Varsha, before you
froze on us?
Connected?
Oh.
Yeah.
I think I was saying that in that sort of what they call, I guess, the picture of your consciousness or something like that. They had a really cool whatever messaging for it, but he's piling up the bodies, right? I think I was sort of adding to your point that you said earlier, that the way to achieve the dream is through the pile up of bodies, and I like that they touched upon all the bodies that each of them piles up and so on. And that was a cost that apparently Griffith was willing to pay always, or that's what the God's hand tells him. We did see that explicitly a bit ago when he was telling Guts, "Don't tell people I did this." But also, I think now, I'll go on a bit of a tangent for something else that I wanted to say earlier because I think it's related. There are a few things that we can interpret at a deeper level or at a shallow level, or there are sort of what's what I'm looking for, uncharitable interpretations to some things that Griffith says, like when he's talking to the princess, for instance. We wondered whether he was just trying to sound cool or if he really meant what he said about who he would respect as a friend. What he said to Guts, what he said about Guts, it could be he's justifying it to himself, or he really does think that Guts hurt his meaning, his dream somehow. And I forget why I got here from piling up the bodies. I think yes, and the third thing is whether the God's hand really means this about Griffith's character, right? So I think we can really interpret things very differently based on how we read these things. Is the God hand, and all of them pertain to Griffith's character, I think. If the God hand is right, is he willing to make those kinds of sacrifices? Was he just manipulating the princess, or did he really mean that about who he would take as a friend? I think there's layers to even just the interpretation of Griffith's character, but also just we can like him or dislike him or read him very differently for what we would interpret in each of these situations.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And I think that makes his character a little bit more mysterious, and that adds the mystery of we don't know for sure. These we kind of just have to interpret it.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the time we get to the end of volume 12, though, I mean, it makes the charitable interpretations less supportable,
Yeah.
right? Like, I mean, you can say, oh, he's not that bad, but then, at the end, you're like, well,
But you wonder if he would have made that choice, though, right? If he hadn't been tortured, would he have made
Yeah.
those choices? I don't know. If he felt, because there was a point where he is now physically he can't even walk. So would he have made the same choice if he had never been captured and tortured in a shell?
Yeah. He is a crushed man given like a last thread of hope. We could find reasons to hate him and we could find reasons to forgive him. And I think that makes him a very, very interesting character to read. This book really opened him up for me as a character, like this volume in particular. So far, I was just like, I feel like I'm supposed to like him, but I know what's coming, so I don't. But now I'm just like, rethinking everything that happened so far. So that was one of the reasons why I really enjoyed this one.
I wonder if the God Hand or whatever makes it so that you have to, by the time you get the Beharit, you have no other choice. Either go with, becoming a demon or give up everything pretty much. Because like you said, maybe if all that bad stuff didn't happen, then he would have said, oh, I don't need to do this. I'm smart, I'm popular, whatever. I can achieve my dreams without it. So maybe they manipulated everything so that he would end up, like we saw, destroyed, and that this was his only chance to achieve his dream.
I mean, they do say you get the choice when you're at the cusp of losing everything.
Yeah.
Right. That's said early on by someone.
When he loses all ambition, or what was it? When with the prophecy? So yeah, it was like it was all destined to.
Yeah.
The table was set for this to happen. Seems like.
But do you think that God Hand was manipulating stuff, or do you think that I don't know, it was some other thing? Like it was not guaranteed to end up to the story to unfold this way. It could have ended up unfolding other ways.
Well, the question is like, okay, so I mean, the open question is the God Hand. How is the God Hand manipulating things? Is it what happens to him, or is it what he does? In other words, is it just the circumstances that they're manipulating, or is it did he have because what happened? He went and seduced the princess. That's what caused his fall, right? If not for that, no torture, no year in prison, all that stuff wouldn't have happened. He probably would have gotten everything he wants without sacrificing anybody. So who was he made to run in there and seduce the princess? Is the God Hand kind of pushing? Or because that seems to go against this notion of him making choices and stuff. So everything that happened to him, sure, did the God Hand maybe push other people into doing what they did, make sure the Behelit was where he would find it when he fell in the stream. I think that has to be someone nudging something. That's not just coincidence. They said it, right? But like, who made him seduce the princess? I don't mean to actually sleep with the princess. Like the seduction was going on for a while. That was his plan. But the going in that night, that was not smart. He knew it. Right? He's in distress because of what Guts did. Did the God Hand make Guts leave? Get this idea in his notion that he had, had to pursue his own dreams, and that's what made Griffith go and lose it and seduce the princess, which led to him being tortured, and that led to the circumstances of him becoming the thumb.
Or maybe the God Hand made Griffith meet Guts. Maybe they wouldn't have it. Yeah, right?
Just knowing
how far do you go, right?
Knowing that it'll play out. I mean, it becomes very, I don't know. If the God Hand pushed all those things on everybody and made everyone do everything, then none of it's anyone's fault.
Apart from the final decision of Griffith, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, one thing actually that I do remember is that in this chapter, it's not exactly connected, but in this chapter, Guts says, I think explicitly, or he thinks explicitly, like, oh, why did I even leave? I had what I wanted here. This was my dream. It's like, what? And you did all of that just to stay away for like a year and train and do other random shit just to come back when everything is destroyed. And it's like, oh no, this was what I actually wanted. It's a bit ironic, I guess. I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess he couldn't know. But, yeah.
Yeah.
I kind
So then
of
he
got
realizes just before he's gonna lose all of it, which is
Yeah.
it's not great. But
I guess that increases the sadness in the fact that he loses everything. Um, I had a question. I kind of got the impression that it wasn't the God hand that's manipulating events, that there's something higher than that, like something they call destiny or whatever. I don't remember if they actually used a term for it, but even the language that the members of the God hand used, it sounded like they aren't controlling it. It's just everything conspired to make this happen, and they're just sort of the executors of that destiny, if you will. Which
I think they call it the
again,
law of causality, right?
mm, the law of causality. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who says that. One of them, yeah, I guess is one of the God hand. Um,
The brain guy, I think.
yeah. So this happens every 216 or 213 years, whatever number it was. If nothing had happened to Griffith and he still had the Behelit, I suppose he maybe wouldn't have made the choices. So the fact that he was given this choice, would he still, one, would he still have been given this choice, and two, um, would, I guess, yeah, what we were talking about earlier, would everything, was everything, including what Guts did, what Casca did at various points, manipulated by this external entity? That is interesting to think about, because yeah, it leaves one choice to Griffith, and that's it.
Mhm.
But there were other things that he apparently did of his own free will.
You could also make. I mean, we can go deeper and deeper. We can go. There's love. We can go in circles all day long. But I also have to wonder if Guts had never met Griffin, would Griffin be able to pull off what he did, and would he be as attractive to be the thumb without Guts? So there's lots they can. So
Hmm.
maybe he was destined to
Yeah.
meet Guts to achieve what he achieved. To I don't know. We can go all day long.
I think Farsha is onto
Yeah.
something when she says there's something, there's some other forces, because I think he did say like every certain amount of time one of these events happened, right? And we did, they must have happened before, I guess, to get the other God Hands members. So I wonder if there's like this external force. Maybe it's like the Maelstrom. Maybe it's something else, right? Which
Hmm.
is guiding history. It's sort of similar to a bit of a romantic theory of how history works. Is that the important people like Julius Caesar, Napoleon, or whatever, there's just expressions of the popular will, or the just all the people wanting change to happen, then something will rise to the top. It didn't have to be them, but if it wasn't Napoleon, someone else would have rose to the top to express this sort of
Hmm.
popular feeling. And it could be something like that. It didn't have to be Griffith, but someone would have, it would have happened. Something would have happened with the Beherit and the New God Hand. It didn't have to be him, but this sort of force of the universe conspired to make it that way, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
sure.
And did it conspire? Did it start conspiring at the time Griffith landed the Behelit, or even before that? um, it's not just the manipulation of this one person, though, right? It's at least the entire country, apparently, maybe much more. Yeah.
Some of these questions are answered by the deleted chapter,
Hmm.
which is
Hmm.
part of volume 13. I looked it up yesterday.
Okay. Did he maybe delete it because it was explaining too much?
That's what he said.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
It's online, like we can read it. I just read it. I mean, I didn't just read it today, but I read it a few months ago, and I'm
Mhm.
definitely going to read it when I read volume 13. Everyone should.
Do we read that before or after we read the volume? Do you remember?
I think it's chapter 84,
It's
and that's somewhere in the middle of the volume.
I mean, does the Golden Age arc end with the next volume?
yeah.
I think so.
I think
Yeah.
it does, right? Yeah.
Next volume is volume 13. Okay, so it's Storm of Death 2, then God of the Abyss. That's 82. The next one is the missing chapter, which is 83.
83, right.
So the missing chapter is 83, and I closed the tab. But you can. It's easy to find. It's like free online. It's not like this is not like you don't have to like do anything weird or torrent anything. It's easy to find, and it basically answers. Well, it's kind of answers some of these questions if you assume people are telling the truth. Well, not people, things. You assume things are telling the truth, but I think it seems like they are. Like, and I think that's why Miura deleted it because like I don't know. I don't know. I read it and I'm like, this doesn't answer as much as you think, buddy. That was my first. Like, it answers stuff, but I don't know. It didn't like give away a lot that maybe I'm dumb. I don't know.
Did the chapter come out in like the weekly serialization and then it got removed in the tankobon? Is that what happened?
It at least got removed in some of the tankobon. I don't know if it got removed in the first printing, but definitely later. So
I
it's
see.
not in your stuff. It's not in the stuff Dark Horse released. I think it was in none of the tankobon. But at least it was in the weekly. So people were scanning these as they came out. So if you read the online scanlations, they're from the magazines, pretty much. So or they were. So that's how I read a lot of this. So yeah. So I mean, according to the missing chapter, you're getting some answers about sort of, but it's very circular. You know, like who does what and which are the acts of free will? Is free will only happening in these moments? Like, is everything Griffith does not free will, except he could have chosen one way or the other at the last second. I sacrifice or not. Maybe that was a kernel of free will, but everything else had to happen the way it did. That's the feeling I get. It's very unsatisfying, but that's me. That's the
Hope to
feeling.
get that link from you, Joe. So. I'm sorry, Varsha, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it's not even just Griffith who lacks free will up to that point. It's everyone he associates with who brings him to that point. At least Guts, probably Casca, maybe all of the others as well. So, yeah, unsatisfying about sums it up, I think.
I mean, I guess that's free will in general. I mean, people has been trying to justify or find explanations one way or another for thousands of years.
Steve, I put it on the page chewing event, the calendar thing for Berserk Volume 12.
Okay, cool. I'll grab it.
I should have done Volume. Oh, Volume 15 is not up yet, but yeah, it's right on there.
Okay.
I don't know if I should put it on YouTube. Probably, it's technically illegal, so I don't know.
Is it though?
All these scanlations are, these sites are all technically illegal.
Yeah, but technically, I assume when the English publishers bought the right to Berserk, they didn't buy the rights to this chapter because they probably bought the rights to the tankobon.
I mean, it's illegal in the way that it's illegal, but no one's really going after anyone for it because it's been,
yeah.
But you're not allowed to reprint. We don't have. I mean, the person who put this on doesn't have the rights to publish Berserk online. Right? There's no one complaining to them about doing it. So I don't know. It's all. I mean, if whoever published Berserk in Japan went after this website, they could get them shut down. No one cares. Which is, I mean, I'll read stuff. I'll pay for the manga clearly. But I'm like, but if I want to read the chapter online, I'm going to read it. So that's my feeling. Yeah. Morally speaking, I don't feel like I'm not taking money out of anyone's pocket because you can't buy it.
A lot of the scanlation groups work that they translate while there is no official licensing in English, and when there's official licensing in English, they stop doing that.
There's a ton of stuff you can't read any other way. It's like, well, I'm sorry, I'd like to pay someone to read, Baki the Grappler, but no one's putting that in English because it's terrible. So you just have to read the scanlation.
And some of the ways that they license them in America and the West are not great. Because either the pay model or the way the translation gets done or other things, it's just not great sometimes. So
I was fully convinced that this moment when Guts runs up to Griffin, I was convinced that's when he was going to lose his arm.
You
Yeah.
thought Griffith was going to take it?
I thought it was going to be some kind of magical thing that's happening with Griffin, and his arm was going to like
Right.
fall off.
You know, did we see that moment as a flashback when when Guts meets Femto in the first 3 volumes? I thought I saw them both coming out of some sort of water body. I don't know if it was this moment or some other.
I don't remember. It's a good
Let
question.
me see if I can find it. You mean in
No,
like volume 3 or something?
Yeah. Actually, I think Griffith was whole in that flashback image, so maybe not this moment.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think we ever saw in the initial part. I don't think we ever saw Griffith in his pre-transformation form. I think. Trying to look through it, but don't see it.
Is this how the Golden Age?
Oh no, we do see it. We do see it actually. We do see like a flashback of them fighting, but not during the maelstrom. It's like just fighting a battle.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, he's gonna lose his arm fairly soon.
Probably the next volume.
It's happening. It's happening.
Gotta be pretty soon.
Yeah.
And I
Sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Casca. Go ahead, Varsha. Casca, Varsha.
I was gonna ask, did Casca get the mark too? She didn't, right? A lot of the Hawk did, but she did not get the mark, did she?
Did she not?
I didn't think so.
Don't
Did
recall
she?
seeing it.
Let me check that too. I guess.
Yeah, I want to say she gets it. Maybe
I'm
not
pretty
sure.
sure she. I'm pretty. I mean, she must get the mark.
She must get the mark.
She must get the mark.
I don't know if they show it specifically. We're not done with Casca.
Let me see, because there's the thing when there's like the light tendrils going from Griffith to everyone else, right? Or am I imagining that?
Mm-hmm.
No, they do show Guts with the mark.
Guts gets the mark. I don't.
Definitely has it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but his is very visible. I don't know where Casca's mark is. No, we do see it. We do see it. She gets the mark on her chest.
I see.
I think like here.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah, and Guts gets it on the neck. Yeah.
I see. I think I was looking for it in the pages after Guts gets his mark. I've got to go look for it again.
Yeah, it's right almost at the end. They'll get their mark.
Yeah, and you can see. Well, I didn't recognize her for a second, but yeah, that one top left.
I see. Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. Cool, thanks. I was confused about that. I was wondering why Casca would be left out. And as far as we know, so far, most of the Band of the Hawk, we've only seen them get the mark, right? They haven't died yet or anything.
A couple of people have died. Dismembered at the end. Maybe more than a couple.
I read this one on the flight. I clearly did not pay enough attention.
Yeah. No named characters, just some random guys.
Yeah, the randos were all you can eat buffet, but no named characters.
Yeah, but I do really like how the monsters are drawn in this, like in this part. They look so weird and sort of like I don't know if it like medieval sort of monsters, which make a lot less sense. I'm trying to think I don't know if any of you remember the name of that painter that does all the super weird monsters. You know what I'm talking about, like medieval time. I don't know, but they look very, very medieval. Not like monsters you would find in a modern horror, at least to me.
Almost like a Lovecraftian vibe to them, like the giants and the not
Yeah.
not so much like fish people or whatever, but more like the giant. Yeah,
Yeah, there's a shortage of tentacles.
yeah.
Not
No, not the
all
tentacles.
We don't have the octopus vibe.
Some of them reminded me of like the monsters from Hellraiser, like the leather-bound villains from Hellraiser. I wonder if that was inspiration for him. But
Maybe.
Do we all have pet names for the God Hand? I do. There's Naked Chick, there's Brain on the Outside, Ooh and Ah.
Oh, yeah, two guys.
Because one
I
of those
agree.
was like, ah! Two
Which
eggheads.
ones
Yeah. Oh, I found it. So yeah, it reminds me of paintings from Hieronymus Bosch. That's what it reminds. If you Google him, you'll see. I think you'll see why it reminds me of that. It's very surreal, weird monsters. But
So
yeah,
he's got the definite like they're grotesque.
yes,
They're never like kind of cool looking. Like there's a sense in which I feel like if something adheres enough to like normal human dimensions, like a werewolf, it can look cool. A vampire, it's a guy with fangs, right? They can be kind of cool. But once you've got like enough eyes on your shoulders or whatever, it's just grotesque. It's so twisted and sort of dysfunctional looking. It's like arms that don't serve any purpose, just sticking out of places, and I mean they're horror, right? They're not like, oh, I wish I could look kind of like that. Like, you know, you look like you might look at the Hulk and be like, I wish I was built like the Hulk, but you're not gonna look at these guys and go like, maybe if I go to the gym one day, you know,
I've had crab claws.
yeah.
Maybe not.
So
But I guess they're different from the other like named apostles, which are kind of a bit cooler, like Zod, and I guess the God Hand. They look reasonable. Maybe that's sort of like if you're a low level demon, you're weird. If you get a bit higher, you get to customize yourself a bit more. You get to look a bit nicer.
no, but the dog guy looked pretty gross in his full form. I don't know if Zod has a gross form. Zod looks cool when he transforms, and so does the Skeleton Knight dude.
Yeah.
Right, they look kind of cool, right? Like, but there's a way that they look cool in which most of these other guys don't. They're kind of gross.
Yeah. Maybe because we're sort of supposed to emphasize a bit more with them, with their actual characters. They're not just monsters in the background.
Yeah, I mean, we're supposed to like Zod and the Skeleton Knight. We're supposed to, on some level, think they might be helpful in some ways or not so bad. You know, they have redeeming quality. You never see Zod like raping women. Like, he likes fighting with people, but who doesn't? You know, Zod's sort of relatable. You know, he clearly doesn't like the dog boy. In the last volume, I read both. I read 11 and 12 this morning, so I'm still thinking about Dog Guy.
Yeah. Well, we get Zod in the skeleton event. It's like the last image, right, of this volume.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but we clearly are going to see them again, right? I mean, I don't think there's any spoiler there. They'll do something. Crab claws would be tough to text with those. Yes.
I know.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
It's better than something like
speech to
fish
text.
hands or any of the
crab
weird
hands.
chaos mutations
Yeah.
that you get.
Yeah.
Could be worse.
That'd be
Maybe
tough.
tentacles would work pretty well, actually.
Can multitask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Referred arm would be quite useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would get a lot more done.
Yeah.
Joe could type faster. Type his books out faster.
No, I wish typing speed was my limiting factor. Yeah. Yeah, third hand. But,
You know, I know we mentioned the return of Puck, but it struck me in this one how different, like how, I guess because we've been in this other arc for so long, we haven't seen Puck for a while. But it struck me like the contrast of the world we're in and then Puck. It's just like it felt like it didn't fit. So I think having Puck before, like we had mentioned, I think that was because otherwise it'd be like, who the hell is this? It'd be like very jarring to get this like fairy thing like out of nowhere.
And pucks are I think pucks are only clue that this isn't purely a dark fantasy, right? That there are magical things that aren't bad.
Mhm.
Because Puck's kind of cute and helpful and he heals people, right? It's all good stuff. There's not a lot of good stuff with the apostles, right? They're pretty just bad. Like some may be worse, but they're bad, right? So Pucks are a hint that there's some kind of a balancing something.
Yeah.
In a way, Puck's our only sense of hope at this point, right? Without Puck healing people, it would seem even less hopeful or more hopeless. Um, so I don't know.
I think we almost need Puck in a way because it'd be a little too much, right? Not for me, but for other people. Because I have a black heart, but I think Dan might agree with me on this one. But
Yeah, I did like him coming back though. It felt like, it felt very much like a transition into a different period, or into a different phase of the story, right?
yeah,
Because some of the stuff we saw in this old arc would feel very out of place in the next arc, in the past. But it does feel like we are transitioning into that right now.
And we are, right? The eclipse changes the world. It doesn't just change these, 3 survivors or 5 survivors or whatever it is.
Yeah. But I think it's very well executed because you just feel it through the art, you feel it through the characters and a lot of other things. There's like a pretty distinct difference between these different periods. I think it's really well done.
Yeah.
what did you think, Varsha? Were you happy to see Puck return?
Yes and no. I mean, I like Puck, so I was happy to see him. But I think I kind of like the idea that Guts is in this sort of dark place and Puck is this ray of whatever, like little bit of brightness that, maybe can help him see the light, maybe, or whatever purpose Puck had in the beginning. It feels like now there's some maybe more a deeper reason, which is nice. I like that what it adds to the story, but then I kind of liked Puck's character as it was in the beginning. So yeah, I was happy. Like I had that moment of thrill where like, this is connected. That's cool. But also, I liked his character as someone who he had met later on who had nothing to do with his past. So yeah.
I thought it was funny because the first thing we see, like you open that sort of chapter a little bit, it's just like Puck's ass just as the cover. I was like wondering, like people reading the manga at the time was like, wait, what? Or they're not reading Berserk, they're just scrolling through the latest issue of, I don't know, what was it, Shonen Jump or whatever it was.
Not
right?
Shonen Jump.
No, not Shonen Jump. I don't remember what it was. What
Not
was
Shonen Jump.
it? Where was it published? But yeah, it was a bit funny.
Yeah. Chet?
Oh, Young Animal. Or I guess Monthly Animal House before, but yeah, it's Young Animal.
What the hell is Chet? Okay, doesn't matter. I don't know what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Nice to see Puck again. Gang's getting back together. Still have to see Guts lose his hand and his eye.
Yeah.
And that's coming. Gotta find out what happens to Casca.
And everyone else. Everyone else is still alive right now. Oh, the important character, I guess. Important, Pippin, Shudo, all the other guys. All the named characters on the band are still alive right now. Crocus. Not for long.
I want to know what's going on with that random kid. Who protecting.
Yeah. Oh, his name was.
We haven't seen him before, right?
No, we've seen him before, right? He's part of a band of a hawk, right?
Oh.
Isn't
right. He met the fairy and he was healed by the fairy, right?
He's the only survivor of that group which was in the forest, right?
Right, right. Yes, that's who he was. Right.
So I assume he
And
got picked up by the caravan. Yeah.
hmm, I remember thinking at the time that this is a different fairy, not Puck. So it was interesting that it was revealed to be Puck. Um,
Let me just try to remember what
I
his
guess
name is.
I guess that's the other reason I'm not happy to see Puck, because I would have liked for there to be more fairies in the world, not just that one that we've met.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's Ricket. Now I remember it's Ricket. Yeah.
right. And we still don't know why Zod stole the princess at at the end of the last volume.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Rickard.
Ricket, yeah. I guess good for him that he was away because he didn't get branded.
Mm,
He's the only guy from
Yeah.
the Band of a Hawk, I guess, which didn't get branded, I think.
I feel like I remember what happens to him, but now I need to reread and try to refresh my memory.
I do remember. We'll see.
I'm going to sit down one day this summer and just reread the next 30 volumes and just catch up, because it's going to bug me if I don't.
It's a lot of reading.
Yeah, I think 41 or 42 are out. I have them all on my shelf.
Yeah. I'm not going to do that. I was tempted so much to do it, but I'm just going to, the stuff I don't remember, I'm just going to remember it with you guys, I think. It's going to be more interesting.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I got to see if I have time. But
You have books to write, Joe.
Hmm?
You have books to write.
I just hit I'm almost done, actually.
Oh,
with
nice.
Book 4. I'm at 110 to 111,000 words. So I should finish by Tuesday. Then I got to do a rewrite and time to give it to beta readers next week, because I'm going on a cruise. So next Sunday I'm flying to Europe. So
Yeah, but when you're done, you need to start writing the next one. Right?
I do, but I can only write like a couple a year, because that's the only schedule my cover artist will stick to. He won't give me more than a couple covers a year. I keep asking, when can you give me another? I don't know, 6 months. I'm like, all right. So he keeps putting me off for like real writers, like for New York Times bestsellers. I'm like, all right,
Fair enough.
fair enough. But no, I've got 2 coming out in the next like 4 months, so that's
Wow.
plenty. Because I had one that I finished a little while ago. That's I'm getting the cover done, and that's my fantasy novel. So we'll see. Yeah, it's going to be a big burst.
Yeah.
But
yeah, definitely you want to binge read Berserk when you start reading it. You're like, oh, I want to read the next part and the next part and keep going on.
yeah. It gets yeah. I don't want to say anything. But this definitely, I don't know. It's funny, like as a genre, because it's like it's that line between action and horror that I find really interesting. And there's one hand, you got a guy with a very big sword and a can in hand, like fighting things. You're like, okay, that's an action story, right? The other hand, you meet the God Hand, and they're just like, space doesn't work right anymore, and there are hills made of faces, and you're like, you're not going to get a big enough sword to have a meaningful impact on this. So it's like the apostles are almost at a level of almost action, like you can hit them with a sword hard enough and potentially but what do you do with the God Hand? Like they're not even, it's almost like they're like a different level. And it's one reason that I read this and I feel like I don't really, and it's not necessarily a criticism, right? It's like I don't really understand how it can resolve. I don't understand how Guts can win when you're talking about you can see him defeating an apostle, as crazy as it sounds, right? He's pulling off these amazing feats of like physical endurance and strategy and giant sword, okay, and a cannon hand. But then it's like, well, these guys are making hills out of noses, and you're like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Like it just seems like it's like maybe the whole point is that level of antagonist you should feel just completely helpless, and yet he doesn't, and he keeps resisting even though it's helpless, and that's the point. But then part of me is like, I don't know how you end a series like this. I mean, I know how you do. You die, and then you don't have to. But presumably he had an ending in mind that he told his assistant, and we're going to find it. So I'm like, I find it so strange. Like I don't. It's like I don't. Normally, you kind of see a path, by the midpoint, right? You kind of know, like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen, but I can sort of get the rough shape of it.
Yeah.
But here I'm like, I don't.
Well, we're not at the midpoint yet, but we're far from the midpoint.
Well, I mean, look, I mean, what was it? I mean, we're not. Yeah, okay, we're at the quarter point, but we have a pretty good idea how the story's going to go for a while, based on the first 3 volumes.
Yeah. From what I remember about it.
But I mean, even if I cheat and say I know how I've read the next 20 volumes, which I have, even with that in mind, I still don't have a sense after having read the next 20. I still don't have a sense of how it would end, where it could go. That would make sense. And I'm not saying someone smarter than me couldn't have that sense, but like I was reading, and I was like, I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
Like, 20
But
more volumes.
To be honest, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to make
Marshall
a dumb
Google.
joke. I was going to say Griffith defeats the God Hand from the inside, and Guts is going to help.
One more.
I mean,
Okay.
maybe. I don't know, but yeah. I mean, it's like I can think of other, other mangas which are very not similar, surface level similar, in which the protagonist starts off as just a normal guy, and then he gets progressively stronger, and because of his friendship and his will to win, I don't know, the Bleaches and the Dragon Balls and the whatever, it goes from, basic level to pretty much god level, and the guys you see at the beginning are like, how could he have possibly defeated them? And then he progressively just gets slightly better and better and better. So in theory, I'm thinking you could technically just read Berserk as just like, oh, you just like the action scenes, and you see it as just, him going and fighting new guy after new guy, right? So you could just be into that, or you could be into more of a psychological horror, well, not psychological, cosmic horror of it, because it is pretty much cosmic horror at that point.
That's the thing. When you get to the Maelstrom and like the God Hand, it feels more like cosmic horror. It feels like you're not going to get a big enough sword for these guys. Whereas in Dragon Ball Z, at every step, you're like, okay, we can kung fu punch this guy. And maybe he's a little tougher than we are, but we can train and get there. They're not in like volume 7 of Dragon Ball and like meeting Frieza. Like they're just meeting like the next guy. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just it's interesting. It's really interesting. It doesn't feel like it fits genre-wise with other stuff.
Maybe he finds a magic sword which can kill the demon hand. I don't know. Yeah. I hope it's not that, but I don't know.
Great if the assistant released like a joke ending volume where like he does the thing, he just gets a magic sword, the power of love for Casca, and you like slices through the guy hand. It's like, woo.
I mean, I would be very much into it. I would love my expectations to be subverted that way. And
the power of love has to be the power of love. She has to sing or something, and the singing brings down the God Hand.
Yeah, and it would make a lot of people angry, which I'm always in favor of. So
Steve's just shaking his head. Power of what?
What?
No, thank you.
Talking about tonal shifts. Yeah, that'd be a tonal shift.
That was,
I would love something like that, to be honest. I'm just waiting for a really. I can't wait for the time in which a really popular piece of fiction will suddenly do like a joke or a complete shift at the end, just because fuck you, I'm the author, I can do what I want. I would love that to happen.
Form a duet, and their songs tame the evil inside the hearts of the God Hand, and they all live happily ever after. That's the ending we need.
That would be
they all open a
amazing.
yoga studio together.
Yeah, there you go. Yoga studio. The God Hand goes. He's a partner in the yoga studio.
Yeah. Ben Moore, knee to the left.
They sell.
The outside guy.
The God Hand sells low fat, sugar free ice cream at the yoga studio.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe. I don't know. You can't exclude that love will not be the thing that solves everything in the end. Yeah.
Someone's still angry about Robotech.
Maybe not that way. I hope.
You guys remember Robotech and Mid-May? Or I'm aging myself? Okay.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure, like, you guys, I don't know, the way the manga is currently at right now, I don't think you could expect it based on what you've seen up to now. There's a lot of stuff is going to change, and we're going to end up in a very different spot than we're right now or when we started from. It's not all the same for all the next 30 volumes, pretty much.
One thing that I did that I think stood out to me on this one is that it seems like there's more than one type of Behelet or Behelet, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's the crimson, the egg of the king. So it seems like there's different ones that maybe they each do different things. So that was one thing that stuck out to me.
Well, it feels like some can make you an apostle and some can make you a god hand. And the god hand only goes to the ones who are worthy of being a member of the Katham. And that kind of fits into and again, an action manga. The big bosses get the apostles, and then the god hands the bigger bosses. But the rest of it doesn't fit that scheme. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I wonder. Maybe they just throw the Behirits around, and whoever finds the red one, he's gonna be the one that becomes the.
They say it only goes to the one who's got the characteristics already. Right? They say that in this volume that the god of the only the one who's already got that whatever inside. I don't know what word they use, but they say it's got to have the right stuff to
made of the right stuff. Yeah.
Or the really wrong stuff. I don't know.
Probably just very ambitious. I would think very driven. Definitely need that.
This is really about the evils of capitalism, right?
Could very well be.
Griffith is just any other billionaire on his way to the top. And
sacrificing people.
Just Elon Musk in another shell.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, the kind of like the bodies you leave along the way, like the people you sacrifice to your way up to the top.
You need to be a bit of a psychopath to be able to reach those positions, right?
Yeah. I can't tell you how many people I've killed to further my writing career.
There's a body count.
I literally can't tell you.
Yeah. One thing I forgot to mention before was about the pile of bodies to reach the castle. Every time I read it, it always strikes me as, I don't know if it's if he wanted it to look like that, but he looks so far away, and all the people he's killed only brought him there. So it seems like he needs so much more to reach his objective, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like it'd be pretty bloody.
Those are rookie numbers. So
yeah. Even killing the band of hogs, that's not going to let him get there.
No. It's like a foot. There's like a foot up that bridge.
Yeah.
And where's Guts' sword through all this?
He lost it like a year ago, I think.
Didn't it get shattered in the last volume?
Did it shatter?
When he fights Dog Boy?
Maybe.
Oh, maybe.
I think it gets shattered when he fights.
Oh, Guts' sword.
Using like the stub of it to like.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, in the throat.
That's right.
So that sword's, I think, toast.
Okay.
But he's getting a new one. We know that.
Well,
hunk of metal.
But I think the one he has in volume 1 is bigger than the one he's been using in the last few in this arc. So we know it's a new sword. Because when you're fighting apostles, you got to have an ever bigger sword. And we'll see. We got to get the cannon hand. It's gonna be good.
To your point. Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say what you said about the gap being so big. When if that was a picture that the God Hand planted in Griffith's head, I wondered if that was one of the things that made him make up his mind. I'll end it now. That's a charitable interpretation of Griffith, I suppose. That I'll end the body count here if possible. I don't know if that's what becoming a demon does. That sounds like it's not, but I wonder if it was a contributor to his decision.
I thought they were saying this is, you've already been doing this for a while, and this is just the next step in the body count, and you've sort of already, you knew that your dream was that, you can't be as naive as to think that you can achieve your dream without killing a bunch of people, I guess. So either give up and, I don't know, sunk cost fallacy. You've already killed all these people, might as well continue.
Yeah.
At this point.
Why stop now?
I just see Dan in the eclipse. Sunk cost fallacy as all the demons are flying around. Like, don't listen to them.
Yeah. Don't be deceived. It's just a rhetorical construct. But maybe
Don't
I don't
let
know.
that
But
body.
yeah.
Go ahead, go ahead.
But he definitely has. I don't know. He's got it. But maybe his dream is like, who knows? Maybe his dream is like it's like a good thing. Just sacrifice a couple of people for the betterment of everyone, right? It's another common trope in these sort of things, right? Just kill like Watchmen, kill a few million people for the benefit of all of mankind, right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, if that was his objective, that was his dream. I don't know. Make a land with everyone is free and they're not oppressed by anyone. Would that make his sacrifices worthwhile? I don't know, but some people would say yes. Some people would say no.
And okay, so the way that I took this end is Guts will survive because he's going to be made the demon of the naked woman, because she chooses him as you'll be my demon. So I'm assuming that's why he survives. If he does, well, of course he survives, but well, does he? I don't know. But I assume that's why he. I don't think anyone else will, because she chose him to be her demon. Or am I on the wrong track? We don't know yet, but I'm just assuming. So
Don't know yet. But I mean, it seems like everyone with a mark should die. Maybe it's like after he dies, she's gonna pluck his essence and just keep it with him, but he's still gonna die.
maybe
I
without his
think
armor.
maybe that's what she meant.
And a cannon for an arm. He did get a body upgrade ish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can't do everything with the cannon that you can do with a hand, but
That's true.
maybe I'd rather have a hand personally.
But you can't kill a demon at close quarters.
I'd probably just decide to die. I think if I was in place of Guts, just like it's not worth it. I don't know if I would have the resilience to make the choices he did. Especially in this maelstrom at that point, I'd be like, this is pretty fucked. I don't know if I want to struggle for no reason.
I don't think they view time the way everyone else does. The God Hand, they're sort of atemporal in a way that they don't like. To them, like, you're the sacrifice, you get the brand. Oh, you live a few more years and you're like running, but every night you're running from mountain. That's fine. That you're still the sacrifice. It doesn't have to happen today. Like, time doesn't mean anything to them, I don't think, or the same way that they would to a person. So I just interpreted Guts surviving as he's still a sacrifice. It's just, it's not going to happen now. What difference does it make? He's got this the doom he can't escape. That's just as good. It doesn't have to be now. That's the impression I got. That's the feeling I got. We'll see.
And hey, hello, Rachel. Hope you're having a good Sunday as well.
Hey, Rachel.
Good to see you. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've gone
Well,
longer
next
than
volume
usual,
we're going to see the conclusion of it. Sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, I was just going to say that the next volume is going to be also quite interesting because we're going to see a nice little bow to this arc, I guess. And a lot of the stuff that you're still wondering about is going to be answered about what happens, and I guess set up. Well, and then the next one and the one after will set up where we're going. But yeah, I think it will be pretty interesting.
I do not remember what happens in volume 14. I need to read that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just the beginning of a new arc. Well, tying up things, right, and then starting off new things.
I remember reading this the first time. I was really wondering if the eclipse would end and then we take off from where volume 3 ended. And now I have no idea. I mean, we'll all find out in a couple of weeks.
I don't remember exactly.
But I don't remember. Anyway. Cosmic Horror, and yeah. We got some naked Casca as usual in this volume. A little fan service.
Yeah, look, I'm glad I read this yesterday because it'd be hard to go too long without reading the next one after the way this one wraps up.
Are you gonna read the next one like today or tomorrow?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I think I might.
But then you have to wait another whole week to talk about it.
That's the downside. Yeah, that's the bad part.
I don't think I can be here next week. I think I'm on my way to the airport.
It's
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Sorry.
There's
I'll watch
Wi-Fi.
your, huh?
Wi-Fi?
It depends. I might be in the
I'm
car. on the way to the airport.
I'm teasing. No, I'm just playing.
I don't actually know. My wife does all the planning, so she just tells me where to go and what to pack. I'll just yes, dear. So we shall see.
Cool.
But I have spotty Wi-Fi from the boat, so I'm going to be out probably the next couple weeks. So enjoy. I'll watch your replays. I watched your replay from last week. You were talking about the eggheads.
Oh,
Yeah, we
yeah,
had
yeah.
lots of things to say about you too. I don't know if, hopefully you didn't see that.
They even said that before starting the recording. I only saw what was on YouTube.
Well, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one next Sunday. So, in the meantime, Dan, if someone wants to get in touch, where can they not find you?
You can find me on the Patreon forums. I sometimes post some very hot takes, and that's it. Yeah.
Nice. Joe?
jcmburn.com is my website. I'm on Twitter at joeburn1. You can find me at Page Chewing on occasion. Most days, I at least check it. And yeah, that's probably it. Oh, and buy my book, Useful Ascending. It's on anywhere books are sold as long as those places are Amazon.
Okay.
And Volume 4, do you have a release date yet or time period?
Yeah, it'll be like by September.
Oh, nice.
Shadow of Hyperion will be released by September, but I don't know exactly. Partial Function, my fantasy novel, should be out in August, I hope. That's very close together. That was not planned. It's all about lining up editors and cover artists and not having a good plan. So, sorry.
No, it's looking forward to it. So,
Yeah, thank you.
and Varsha?
Yes, my channel Reading by the Rainy Mountain and the About page has more direct ways to reach me, as well as, I hang out on the Page Chewing forum a lot.
Yeah, and you can also find me on Page Chewing, the best place to I just doom scrolling. I'm trying to get away from that crap because it's just a waste of time. But yeah, so anyway, thanks everyone for coming by. Thanks to everyone who came by and commented, and we will see everyone except for you, Joe, next week. So we'll see
Thanks, guys.
everybody then.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.